It's great to see you all here today. As Leon said, my name is Daryl Luna, and I am a constitutionalist. I've been fighting for the Constitution for a number of years now, and really I fell in love with it at an early age. I got this copy of the Constitution when I was a 5th grader at Flintwell Elementary School, and I still have it today. And as I got older, I studied it a lot more, and I found out just how fantastic of a document it was, and just how bad we have done as a country in obeying that Constitution. So it is my hope that we can send a message to those in Washington, and we can, if we can't send a message, we can send them home and maybe send some to Washington that agree with the Constitution, that will actually defend it against all enemies, domestic and foreign. So that's my hope here today. As I said, I defend the Constitution pretty much on a daily basis. I blog in defense of the Constitution is the name of my blog. When I was in college, I wrote for the school newspaper a column called In Defense of the Constitution. There's a reason why I defend the Constitution, because I believe the Constitution is worth defending. I believe that the Constitution is the greatest document ever crafted by the hands of men to secure the liberties of their people. And because I believe that when we neglect the Constitution, when we forget what it says, when we disobey it, and when we break our social contract, when our government acts out of place and does not follow the Constitution, I believe it is at our own peril. I believe when they do not obey the Constitution, liberty suffers and tyranny is given a chance to rise. And what we are seeing in this country today, I know a lot of you are upset about. You wouldn't be here if you weren't upset. But it didn't just start now. It didn't just start in January. It didn't just start 8 years ago. It's been going on for decades, really over a century and a half, and that is a complete disregard for the Constitution and the principles that is represented in that Constitution. And because we have disregarded the Constitution, because we've disobeyed it, we are now suffering for it. So it is my hope that we will get back to constitutional government.
Yes.
Now, the first step to getting back to constitutional government is to better understand what the Constitution is and what it means. So the first step is you got to read the thing. And if you've never read the Constitution, shame on you as an American citizen. But it's not too late to start. So we need to read the Constitution. We need to read the documents that go along with it. Things like the Declaration of Independence, the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, the Articles of Confederation, which is our first written Constitution. And if you read the thing, I hope you'll love it, because I think it's even better than the one we got now. And of course, also the letters of our founders, men like Jefferson and Madison, these guys who truly understood what liberty was and therefore worked to establish a constitutional republic in this country to defend that liberty. See, our founders understood that it wasn't the place of government to run your lives. It wasn't the place of government to tell you how you could and could not spend your money. It was not the role of government to be large and intrusive in your everyday lives. See, our founders wanted what Thomas Jefferson said. He said he wanted to bind the government with the chains of the Constitution. And that's what we must do today. We must bind it with these chains of the Constitution. Now, why must we do that? Why must we do that? Because that is the very nature of the Constitution itself. The Constitution is a limiting document. It is there to establish a Republican form of government based on federalism in this country, but it's also there to constrict that form of government that it founded. It is there to limit the power of government and increase the liberty of the people. And when we do not limit the power of the government, our liberties and our freedoms are always in jeopardy. That is why we must follow the Constitution, because that is the second thing about the Constitution. The Constitution was not only there to limit government, but was also there to be a bulwark of protection for our liberties and for our rights. See, our founders understood that rights do not come from man and rights do not come from a document. You do not have the right to bear arms because the Second Amendment tells you so. You do not have the right to speak freely because the First Amendment tells you so. You have those rights regardless of what any government tells you, because rights are not given by government. Rather, they are given by Almighty God. Our founders understood that we are in endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And what unalienable rights are rights that cannot be removed from us. We are born with these rights. The very fact that we are a people means that we have these rights. And our founders understood that if government is not kept in check, that those rights will suffer. And if we do not keep the government in check by using the Constitution, we will continually see our rights to be trampled upon, bit by bit, piece by piece, and then we will wake up one day, we will not recognize our country, and what we will see is, we will see federal tyranny. Yes. And we must fight against it at every turn. Yes. And that's the problem. We have not fought against it yet. We have sat back and we have let people have a free pass because they're a Democrat or they're a Republican or their daddy was a great politician or they claim to be a Christian. Instead, what we must do is vet every candidate, every office holder, and if they do not respect and defend the Constitution, they are committing tyranny against this country. They are practicing lawlessness and they are no friend of liberty. So going forward, knowing that the Constitution is to be restricting of government, knowing it is to provide for our rights and liberties, I recommend that we return to it. I know it's a simple thing to say, but that is a radical thing to say in D.C. To say that you actually follow the Constitution, that you actually cannot pass laws unless the Constitution gives you authority to say so, to do so. We've gone the complete opposite way in this country. Our legislators, our executive, and our judicial completely disregard the Constitution and treat it like it is a mere footnote. They do not respect what it means. They do not respect what it protects. And in doing so, they have torn our country apart. And by us sitting back and letting it happen, we have ourselves committed a crime. Yes. So what must we do? We must educate ourselves about the Constitution. We must educate our families, our friends, those we go to church with, those we work with. We must let them all know the principles of liberty are found in the Constitution. And let me tell you, once you start to do that, that's not an easy task. Because being a constitutionalist, sometimes you have to allow for things you might not personally agree with. You might have to listen to people you don't want to hear. You might have to do a lot of things, but in the end, by protecting the liberty of all, you will have your own liberty protected, and you will live freer, happier, and more prosperous lives. Yeah. Here in the United States, we have been blessed beyond all measure. And one of those great blessings is our founding generation. Great minds, people like Madison and Jefferson and Adams and all of these people. And they have given us something great in this country. And they have given us a great Constitution, which if we follow, we would be free and we would be happy. We wouldn't be here today probably. But we have forsaken it. So we must fight. But I tell you, it is a fight worth fighting. Samuel Adams, one of our great founders, said this. He said, the liberties of this country and the freedoms of our civil constitution are worth defending at every peril. And that is 100% as true today as it was then. We have faced many perils and many dangers and many hazards throughout our nation. But generation after generation has been willing to stand up to them. Let us not be a generation that sits by silently. Let us be a generation that holds all parties accountable. And I don't just mean political parties. I mean all individuals, all actions, all groups. Let's hold them all to the litmus test of the Constitution. If they fail to do so, let's kick them out of office and let's never let them go back. Yes. If they are betraying our Constitution, there's no need for us to support them in any way. Yes. But there is a very good reason for us to support the Constitution, and I wanted to just leave you with that reason. And I think it's said well by Justice David Davis, who was a Supreme Court justice in the mid-19th century. And he said the following. He said, the Constitution of the United States is a law for rulers and for people, equally in war and in peace, and covers with the shield of its protection all classes of men at all times and under all circumstances. Because it is that, let us defend it and let us fight what Patrick Henry called the holy cause of liberty. Let us fight for it. Thank you.